Welcome back to another edition of the Garage Gym Experiment podcast. I'm Jake. There's Adam. We are trying something a little bit unique tonight. So let us know if you like it. But basically, I'm taking this one over and I'm going to take Adam to business school. Adam, we're going to business school. I was in the car pretty much for 4 hours one way, 4 hours the other day, and I listened to maybe my favorite business book for I think the third time. For anybody in the business world, especially a gym equipment provider, I think it's really relevant. It has just about all the information you need to create products that stand out. So this is the blue ocean strategy. I'm going to just talk about what it is, go over some key characteristics, and relate it to the home gym industry as a whole. All right, Adam. So have you ever heard of the blue ocean strategy?
I have not.
Didn't think so. So there's been a few people on the podcast who've discussed it as part of like their business strategy. But anyways, the blue ocean strategy is a business approach that focuses on creating uncontested market space instead of competing in existing crowded markets. So this was introduced in the book by W. Chan Kim and Renee Mauborgne. I definitely pronounced those wrong. But
I think you got
within
Chan
that,
Kim right, but
yeah. But anyways, in that book, they start off by saying like, what is a red ocean? What is the blue ocean? And these are just key terms. So red ocean. So this explains existing industries where companies fight for market share, leading to cutthroat competition. So this is where everyone's providing the same product and everyone's fighting over market share without any differentiation. Whereas a blue ocean is unexplored market space where competition is irrelevant because new demand is created. So those, I think that makes sense, pretty broad, but there's quite a bit that goes into these kind of strategies. So number one, so I'm gonna discuss those and then also just tie it back into the home gym scene as well. So, the number one thing that they focus on within this book is value innovation. So this is the foundation of the strategy where a company differentiates itself with product or with value while also reducing costs. So instead of choosing between being a very low cost provider or offering a too extreme value, it creates a category that combines both. So value innovation is something that's mentioned numerous times, and I do think it applies to some of these other characteristics as well. So next, number two is creating demand. So rather than fighting for existing customers, the focus is on attracting non-customers who've been overlooked by the industry. So this expands the market by addressing the group that has no interest. So an example in the book that they mentioned was actually Curves, which is like a women's fitness, I don't know exactly what it is, studio. But the biggest thing that it did was it attracted people that were, it didn't like look to improve the gyms already there. It looked to create something new for this group that wasn't being addressed in the first place. So that's number two, creating new demand. Number three, the 4 actions framework. So a lot goes into this. I'm not going to try and dive too deep into this, but basically in an effort to like help identify where the blue oceans are you can look to one, eliminate factors that are taken for granted but don't add value. Two, reduce elements that are overemphasized in the industry. Three, raise aspects that customers highly value but are underserved. Four, create new features or services that never existed. So that's like if you are starting a company or you are in a red ocean, those are some like ideas for you to start looking for new options. Number four, so again, rather than focusing on just these customers, so just these customers that are in the Garage Gym Reviews Facebook group, there's way more out there. So there are three tiers of non-customers. So first tier, those on the edge of the market who are considering alternatives but have not committed. Second tier, those who actively avoid the industry because existing solutions don't appeal to them, like the Curves example. Third tier, those who have never considered the industry or don't recognize its potential or don't even recognize its potential or relevance to them. All right, number five, breaking industry trade-offs. So you'll see a lot of times where, and I'm going to talk about some companies that have done a good job of breaking the industry trade-offs, where there's a lot of times where there's really low cost and then there's a really premium product and nothing in the middle. This creates a new approach where companies offer a high value at a compelling cost, where they remove the traditional constraints. Again, number six, strategic price performance balance. This kind of discussing the same thing. Focus on identifying an optimal price point that is appealing to mass buyers without reducing profitability. And then here you also want to find a middle ground where a product or service becomes widely accessible while maintaining some sort of uniqueness. So I personally think of like the Pep dumbbells for this example. Next, looking at the big picture, not just competing with what's already there. So this shifts focus from beating rivals to creating new value that makes competition irrelevant. This encourages long-term vision rather than incremental improvements within a saturated market. And then lastly, execution and sustainability. So this ensures that the strategy is not just a one-time innovation, but continues to evolve. So I'll talk about some of the companies later that do this really well as well. But it builds a lasting competitive advantage by consistently refining and expanding new product offerings. I'm sure some of that just makes sense because you've been focusing on the home gym scene, but any questions with what I just discussed, Adam?
My biggest overarching question, I think I'll save it for the end.
Okay. All right. So I guess before we get into some specific examples, the final takeaways are the Blue Ocean strategy is about innovation, market expansion, and making competition irrelevant. It also focuses on solving unmet needs, targeting non-customers, and breaking traditional industry constraints. The success comes from evolution and maintaining uniqueness while keeping costs in check. And my big thing here is I think that if the home gym industry keeps all of this stuff in mind, it is ultimately going to grow the home gym industry. So I think there's the biggest a lot of people are so focused on the competition and beating this person, beating that person. But like for me, when I walk around like my neighborhood and I see 1 out of 200 homes with a garage gym, I just see like that's where the potential is for everybody. So like if one person brings in an innovation that brings in more people to the home gym industry, it helps everybody. So I think that's the big point I'm ultimately trying to make. So who are some, I'll give you some specific examples. So I think the biggest innovator in the space, like over the last, what, 15, 20 years, is Rogue. They are, again, in an industry where a lot of the brands were focused on high quality commercial gym equipment or very cheap imported home gym gear, or like, living room, like the home gym was living room stuff. Rogue disrupted the model by offering affordable premium equipment. They were also pretty specific with who their audience was. So they focused on markets that had not been catered to. So CrossFit obviously was number one, but they also catered to home gyms, and I don't think there was anything quite like what they offered to home gyms when they first came onto the scene. And then number two is Rep. So Rep continues to win like the innovation, like survey results. And every once in a while, I'll get people saying, like, what are they innovating on? They're just recreating what everybody else has done. And that is where value innovation comes in. So Rep has done a really good job of seeing what Rogue did, or just seeing on the market where Rogue was, where Titan was, and finding something in the middle. So they created better quality equipment that wasn't at Rogue prices. There's like a lot of ways you can analyze this, but they also, like, they did it in a community way that I don't think a lot of other people were doing, and yeah, so I think that they are an example of blue ocean strategy. Um, Taking it a little more niche, let's go JD Gym Equipped. So they moved away from like the mass production of cable attachments and created a system where it's one of a kind, handcrafted equipment. So they're not competing on price. They're just creating the best quality of something, which is completely unique to anybody else. And I don't really think they are, they're really competing with anybody who wants this type of style. So I think JD Gym Equipped is an example. Synergy Custom Fitness. So they came into the market and they saw a lot of people, like, space was the biggest issue. They also understand the value of creating something in America. There's a group that wants something in America, very premium product, and they're focusing on high quality storage within a small footprint. So they're an example. I think PRX is a legendary example. So instead of doing what everybody else with power racks, they focused on bringing in an entire group of people who owned home gyms that weren't even considering it because they didn't think they had space. So PRX created a product specifically for people who didn't think they were going to be able to have a home gym until this product was created. So kudos to PRX. Fringe Sport. So they are focusing on high quality performance, customer service. It's a really good mix of all of those. But I think right now they may be the friendliest brand. So, you got a CEO on all their ads. They're very focused on educating people. They bring people in with that customer first experience, and it's totally different than like the Rogue commercials where you see people slamming barbells on the ground, which for like the average person might be intimidating. So I think the focus on, just having a friendly vibe is something that can potentially attract people who, just like lifting barbells may not be their most like their number one thing, but they see some fringe sport ads. They're like, oh, this isn't as intimidating as it needs to be. And voila, more home gym owners. Temple of Gains. So they're a really good example of somebody bridging the gap between, the low budget specialty strength machines like leg presses and leg curls. They brought in some unique, like the shoulder one, the lateral raise. Yes. So like bringing in unique pieces like that. Again, like you go look at like some of the commercial gym prices, you look at like what Titan's offering, which is fine for some people, but there's some people who want something in the middle in terms of strength, specialized strength pieces. Kind of what like Rhett did with like the power rack. Force USA, they're a really good example of, they they combined everything into one. So a lot of people with commercial that went with the tradition that loved their commercial gym didn't necessarily want to start a home gym because they didn't think they had the space. And then bang, you got something like a Force USA all in one, and that brought even more people, or more people considered the home gym. So they weren't necessarily taking away Rogue customers, or they weren't taking away Titan customers. They brought it a lot of their new customers. They probably brought in. I think Garage Gym Reviews did it. Like he was one of the first home gym creators, whereas most of the fitness creators were just focused on fitness. And because Garage Gym Reviews was able to deliver entertaining reviews and grow over time, more people became exposed to the home gyms. And a lot of people most likely started home gyms primarily because of him. And that ultimately helped grow the home gym scene. And even if he hasn't reviewed one of your products, he's most likely helped you out, because the whole community, the whole interest in home gyms has undoubtedly become larger because of him. I think, you could really go down the list. Like Black Widow, Executive Fit, Surplus Strength, Bridge Built. They all kind of came in with unique products, or they did things their own way. And so there's a lot. We can't go down every single one of them. But the point is really that the best way for the home gym scene to continue to grow is for more people to use this strategy, and value innovation, and a lot of other characteristics of finding new customers is the best way to grow the home gym scene. Makes sense?
Yeah, makes sense. A company that kind of sticks out that I felt has done this in a really unique way is a company like Bulletproof Fitness. I think before he came out with the isolator and the other things that he's come along with, that was something that wasn't in this area, didn't really compete with other people. What's he competing with? Like standalone equipment, you know what I mean? And so that almost introduced more rack attached variations. We have a lot of Smith machines coming out right now. But it brings me to like that big overarching question I hinted at earlier. And that is like, don't all blue oceans eventually turn into red oceans? Because I think
that's a great point.
I
Yes,
think the
they do.
best example that you brought up was Rogue, because if you wanted a home gym, I remember watching MTV Cribs and like your favorite athlete or whatever, when they had a home gym, they bought like Lifetime Fitness stuff. They bought those big commercial gym experiences. Everyone else had a Bowflex or a Marcy system. And it's like Rogue decided like, no, you can have a real gym and we'll give you the equipment for it. They created this blue ocean. I mean, I'm not going to go in date all these other companies to figure out who was there around that same time. But I mean, let's be honest, like when we think of garage gyms, it started with like a Rogue Rack. And then Rep comes in and says like we can do that too, but at like a great price with like similar quality. And then all of a sudden all these other companies are now in the home gym scene. I just wonder like 20 years from now.
Yes. So the great point. That's something that's emphasized in the book a lot. I should have added that as well. But yes, all blue oceans do eventually turn red. There's a number of things that you can do to help like solve it or like keep it there as long as possible. And price, like if you price is probably the most important thing based off what I heard. Like if you can keep the price down, it's not outrageous. There's an opportunity for the blue ocean to last longer, but and it definitely varies by industry. Another thing that was emphasized with the blue ocean is just because you're the first one to bring it to market doesn't mean that you're the blue ocean innovator. It means that you have to execute it. So you have to execute it and you can't, the price has to be, the value has to be with it as well. So like if you think about Kabuki, so that like I listened to this book and I was like, I'm thinking of Kabuki when they were talking about how you have to also execute. So yeah, good point. But so yeah, and that's also why since all blue oceans do turn red, that is why you have to continuously do this over and over and keep looking for and that's what Rogue's done. Like they've continued to evolve over time. Rep's done it as well. I think Rep did it with their benches first. We've discussed this. Like they had this reputation, this great reputation for the best value benches, and then they morphed it into a power rack and got the reputation for having the most trust and building off of their established power rack. So yeah, I mean, I think there's also like you can also say like RitFit and Major Fitness are solving their own blue oceans because they're going after price, which helps bring in a customer that wasn't considering home gyms because of price. So like they're doing it too. That might be a pretty bloody ocean. um, but but I mean, eventually that's because it's all based off just price.
Right.
But RitFit and Major Fitness, I think they're a little bit different than most of the Amazon brands because they're trying to establish a brand, whereas a
Correct.
lot
Yeah.
of the other ones are, yeah. To like bring it home, I think about the opportunity to like the best way to grow the home gym scene is to do cool stuff, bring value. I think the way I'm thinking about home gym con, like I think home gym con can help because, you know, most specifically in terms of like spreading the word as to like how much cool stuff is there for home gyms. Like we have an opportunity to, you know, create a larger market with the 30 content creators that are coming and spreading the word and showing like, oh, there's this, there's that, there's this, there's that, and break the like traditional thoughts of home gyms and help get them into help more people consider home gyms. So that's I mean that's the mindset I wish more people had. Like there's a lot of like competition. Like they're like people are like, oh, we're competing against them. We're competing against them. But again, like I walk through my neighborhood and there's two home gyms. Um, and the
That was a
biggest
really solid
opportunity
point. Yeah.
that's like that. I just think like, yeah, like if, for example, Major Fitness helps bring in a home gym owner, not only are they going to like one day be like, yeah, I want to upgrade to that Rogue Rack, or but they're gonna like tell their friends, and they're gonna be like, yeah, I got this rack, and it's gonna eventually spread. So yeah, I think there's just a number of different blue oceans. Or like I think like if magnetic resistance can take off and they bring price down, there's going to be a lot more apartment gyms, and the apartment gyms are going to eventually turn into home gyms, and more people are going to see the value of a home gym. So it's this like flywheel that I think there's still potential. I still think we're young, and I think the home gym space has evolved so much since I started, and not every yeah, COVID boosted it, but not everybody knows. So that is ultimately like what the point of this was.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The home gym market, like, as you know, we are so immersed in it that like, oh yeah, like we know so many people with home gyms, but like, I go to work and I talk about working out at home, like, oh, you have a home, yeah, I have a gym, but like they don't understand what that is. They don't understand what we define home gyms as. Like it's not you know, the Marcy like
Right.
4-in-1 or, yeah, it's an
Power.
actual gym in my home.
Yes.
So
Yeah. So yeah, that's all I got. If people like this, let us know. If they hated it, they're like, you shouldn't be talking about business stuff like that. Just let us know. I don't care. I
Jake
I
didn't even go to
again,
business school. You know who else didn't go to business school? LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Tracy McGrady. That's all I thought
classic.
about when you said we're taking Adam to business
I
school.
kn- I
It's just
knew
Michael
that's what you're
Scott.
thinking about. I
I
knew
know.
that's what you're thinking about. All right, well, thanks for listening.